First of all, thank you so much, all of you, to joining us today for this very informative, insightful session, inshallah. And this is very important topic that we are going to discuss. And I will be speaking on this topic, and Mr. Gulzar will be accompanying me as well on this topic as well. And we will be discussing about the UBO. If you can see the agenda, actually, what we are going to discuss is very important topic as per the regulatory requirements. This came into effect in last year, against 2020, and we will be discussing about the specific, the topic that will be the cabinet resolution number 58 about the UBO. It came into effect in 2020, but I mean the mostly, the relevant authorities, they extended the deadlines, and mostly companies, it's applicable to all of the companies, and it's going to happen till June last date, and it's going to be deadline for the 30th June 2021. So we will be discussing some basic and very important, topics, and we will cover in these, the webinar, and that will give you the clear idea that how you can go, how you can yourself, or maybe if you are needing some support, that will be available for that, and how you can, fulfill your requirements and compete to make sure that you're compliant with these regulations and this cabinet resolution number 58 as well. So there will be some compliance requirement, and we will take you, I mean, in detail that how you can fill those, the ultimate beneficiary requirements as well. Okay, I would request Mr. Guzar for the brief introduction about himself. Then I will be just speaking about this topic as well.
Thank you, Athar. Thank you for joining us for today's sessions. In today's sessions, we will discuss about the UBO, and at the end of the sessions, we will take a question answers from you. So we realize that there is a lot of need for a question answer sessions. So we will focus mainly on question and answer session as well. But before, we will give you some brief about the UBO and the filing requirements and other requirements. Just as my introductions, I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I have served this profession for more than 18 years. I have served in Pakistan, UAE, and USA. Currently, I'm working as a managing partner of GSS Group, handling 3 entities in UAE. We can proceed, Athar.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Guzar, for the introduction, and I appreciate your time for today's session. And okay, I will be just discussing briefly about myself as well. I'm Mohammed Akhtar, and I'm partner in GSS Group as well. We have been working since 5 years in this GSS Group, and we are mostly focused nowadays in compliance requirements. That's why we established a new company for that, Compliance 360, and that is, the mainly looking into the regulatory compliances and the compliance requirement for all the, the Middle East and the UAE specifically as well. So I have worked in some other telecom sector and real estate, hospitality, and construction in some other, the countries as well. Multinational companies. I have been working since 15 years. My main, the expertise are into corporate governance, internal audit, and risk management, and the three Ps and regulatory compliances. I have been working since different multinational companies with related to compliance requirements as well. So that's why, as Mr. Guzar discussed, this was a needed session. There are a lot of questions we have been, receiving on daily basis from our clients in different sources. They are asking for different questions as well. So that's why we thought to have a session that can be, it will be. We want to be very, insightful and interactful as well. We want interaction with all the participants as well. Whatever the question, we would love to, the reply on those questions as well. So today agenda, actually, it will be, as I spoke earlier, that the agenda is already being discussed and the introduction is done. So we will be just going. We will not waste more time, and we're going through the main topic of, about the UBO. What is the UBO? Mostly people knows about the UBO as well. It's ultimate beneficiary honor. This is a compliance requirement from the UAE based on the cabinet resolution number 58 of 2020, and it says that you have to identify your, the UBO, ultimate beneficiary amount, in your legal entity. There is a legal entity. There is a natural person as well. And they have some, but legal and the natural person, they are different entities actually. They are different person as well. Some people, they are legal, but they are not natural. So that's why we have to identify who is the ultimate beneficiary, who is getting the benefits from those companies. So that's why this resolution and the compliance requirement came into picture in 2020. And now the mostly relevant authorities, wherever you got the license from the relevant authorities, from DED, from the free zone as well. So you have to go for these, the cabinet, you have to be compliant with these cabinet resolution number, the 58. There was earlier cabinet resolution number 34, but it's replaced with the resolution number 58 in the 2020. So this is totally relevant to the ultimate beneficiary owner. You have to identify in your company who is the ultimate beneficiary. And we will be discussing in detail that who is the ultimate beneficiary owner and how you can identify and how you can file as well based on your, the requirement as well. So this is
I want to add, thank you, Athar. I want to add something in that one. Basically, this cabinet resolution 58 has two components. One is relating to the UBO, the other is relating to the registrar. Whenever we are saying registrar, it means the licensing authority. In today's sessions, we will be only discussing about the UBO. We will not be discussing about the registrar. Registrar has certain obligations, certain procedures. That will be a separate one. If someone wants a more clarity on that portion, we will be happy to assist that portion as well. But in our today's session, we will not touch about the registrar except in certain cases where the UBO or UBO filing declaration is the requirement. Other than that, we will not touch on their area. Yes, Athar.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the clarification, Mr. Gulzar. See, for this one, actually, as you mentioned, the registrar, we will be discussing about the basic requirement for the registrar. There are some obligations, as Mr. Gulzar mentioned. There is some obligation for the registrar as well, and some obligations for the UBOs, ultimate legal entities as well. So we will be discussing about these topics as well, and then later on we will discuss about the registrar requirements as well. That is relevant. But basic, the requirements for us is just like how we have to be compliant with this regulation with regards to UBO actually regulation. So this resolution addressed the disclosure requirements of the corporate registration stages actually. So what this ultimate beneficiary ownership resolution says that you have to maintain some specific registers that is required. Who are the ultimate beneficiary of the company? Who is the shareholder of the company? Who are the partners of the companies as well? If there is nothing, actually, there is no UBO, you cannot identify the UBO. So you have to maintain the senior management register for the, the based on the UBO. That will be, subsequently we will discuss that, those guys will be the UBOs, will be including in the UBO register as well. So most of the companies are required to file not most, I will just take another slide that will tell you in clarity, that more clarity will give you that, which companies is as per, the resolution at the 58, majority of the companies are, this regulation is applicable to those, except some companies that are in, the belongs to some, the financial sector, just like in DFC, just like in ADGM as well. But mostly companies, they have to, 100% they have to, this regulation is applicable to them. They have to notify, they have to assess and notify on the relevant authorities portals as well. There are some portals available on those actually. So each authority has different deadlines, but now 30th June is basically the deadline for all the authorities, for the UBO information, the regulation as well. So in other, the slides, it will give you the more clarity what actually it's saying. What the UBO resolution and how you can just like to implement these resolutions and how you can be in compliant with this resolution as well. So, basic objective of this resolution, what was the basic objective? There was a federal law number 20 in 2018 that is called anti-money laundering. That this is a hot topic actually. This is throughout the globe actually, it's not in UAE. That is very important. If most people are belongs from the finance and the auditing background, they know that the FATF and the UN sanctions and in UAE as well there are some so those the laws are into you have to be in compliant with the international laws as well. It's not only for the the UAE laws. So the federal law number 20, 2018, it came into picture, actually came into effect about the AML, anti-money laundering, that says actually you have to be in compliance with some specific. This UBO is a part of that AML as law as well. So the UBO you can say is a part, a small part. There are some ESR, the economic substance regulations also came into effect in last year. That is deadline is also 30th June. That is also belongs to it's a package of AML, anti-money laundering laws as well. So this is obligation of the the entities, of the legal entities, of individuals or sole proprietors or the partnership or the CEOs or maybe the LLCs. They have if there are some criteria that we will discuss as well, but which owns 25% or more of the company, that they have to go for the these actually compliance with these regulations as well. So basically, this anti-money laundering law is the relevant to that capital resolution number 58 2020 as well, and the ESR law as well. So based there is these laws are linked together, and then if there are some specific criteria for the compliance of these regulations as well.
Adab, thank you for explaining in such a detail. I want to add one thing. Basically, before this separate regulation on the UBO, this UBO was a part of anti-money laundering law that came effective on 30th October 2018 in UAE. In European Unions and in USA, these AML laws are applicable for more than a decade. But in UAE, this AML law came into effective on 30th October 2018, and UBO was a part of that one. But now Ministry has issued a separate resolutions keeping in view of the importance of the UBO. We can proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ullah. Agree with your, what you agree with your thoughts, and this was basically, the part of, the anti-money laundering, because anti-money laundering is applicable nowadays. If you can see, there is another GoAML law is also there is came into effect as well last month, and then there was some specific for the accountant, for the auditors, for the real estate, for the gold market. There was a GoAML based that was also based on these AML laws as well. So basically, all laws are came for the to protect actually the businesses as well from anti-money laundering as well. So how this is the the chunk of this the how you can identify the ultimate beneficiary owner actually from your company, from your organization as well. So there are some details as well, but if you in the basic, if I can say that if anyone in your company, in your entity, in the legal entity owns 25% ownership, it can be direct or indirect, we can say that, or maybe either other way, it can have 25% voting powers as well. That can be a UBO as well. So it's in direct and indirect. This is very important. These two words. Why? Because we can say, okay, in the license, I don't have the something the what you call ownership. I don't have the ownership in the direct ownership, but indirectly you're holding. You have the power. You have the authority to hold the management as well. That is also considered as a UBO because you're getting the benefit from those companies as well. So this will be discussing in detail as well, which I mean the more others the criteria for identifying the for the UBOs as well, the exempted, and which entities that I discussed in the earlier that slide, which entities that are exempted. Except these entities, all other entities are 100% they have to go for the compliance of these requirements for the UBO laws. So listed companies in the regulated markets. What are the regulated markets? That can be the DEFC, that is a financial zones as well, in terms of directly or indirectly wholly owned by the federal or Emirates government. Is any company that is wholly owned by the government of UAE as well, that is also exempted because they have why mostly people ask why they are exempted, because they have different laws, they have different requirements, they have very strong and rigid requirements. They are already fulfilling these requirements about the UBOs and the AML and the ESR as well. So that's why these are exempted, because they are already taking care of these all those as well. If there is one very important point that you should know, that if mostly companies, they are suppose I have 20% the partnership, and there are 5 partners, 20%, 20%, 5 partners. If there is no natural person or any listed company, there is no natural person or maybe the legal person, that is the UBO. So who will be the UBO? UBO will be the senior management. I mean, if CEO of the company, if the CFO of who's managing, who has authority, who can take the decisions. So those guys will be the the ultimate beneficiary owner. That can be in the register. They should maintain the UBOs. That will be for the senior management of any the company as well. So these are the basic the
Athar,
ideas about these then we will discuss in detail as well for these.
Athar, thank you
Yes.
for explaining the things in a much detailed manner. I will summarize the things. Basically, on individual level, we have to identify the UBO because UBO will be a natural person. If a company owns a shareholding of another company, then we have to identify the UBO who is controlling that entity. If that entity is also held by some other company, we have to go further. Until and unless we will identify a natural person, we have to carry out this process. In UAE, most of the companies, the UBO identification is very simple, but in certain cases, it's very complex, and we have seen many cases. The first step is to identify a UBO. It can be identified by three ways: 25% ownership, directly or directly, 25% voting powers, or if he has right to elect or uh, means appoint or disappoint the directors by majority. By majority means more than 50%. Then he will also be considered a UBO. There are certain exempt entities. If there is a shareholding and we cannot identify a 25% ownership, then the person whoever controls the entity will be considered a UBO. If we cannot identify that, then the senior most official, it can be managing MD, CEO, or whatever designation, senior most official in the company of that territory will be considered a UBO. Yes, we can continue. And one more thing, it's applicable on all companies except these exempted. But there here is one clarification: is establishment that is owned by a single person will be considered a legal entity or not. As per FTA guidelines, it will not be considered a separate entity from its owner, so it's not a legal entity. But we have a called with the DD departments, and they are saying even in that case you have to file a UBO declaration. So keep in
Okay.
mind, as establishment, although as per FTA clarification, is not a legal entity from its shareholder, but still in that case you have to file a UBO declaration. Yes, Athar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pooja. This is very important point actually. The question has been asked actually, one question that was raised actually, because in FTA, as everyone knows that we can create a group of companies actually. If we have some companies, we can create a group and we can have filing on those. But in UBU resolution, this cabinet resolution number 58, it says that it's like all the entities, the separate, the having the identity, they should file, they should maintain the register, they should file the notification as well. If you have 5 companies in the group, you should have, the filing requirement will be, the compliance requirement will be applicable to each and every one entity as well, because you have the legal and separate entity based on the relevant authorities. Okay. So this was a question asked, so I thought I should can just clarify on this one as well. So that was I think that we already the clarify. I think there should be no confusion as well on this question as well, which the UBO is applicable to which companies. It's applicable to all the companies except some specific zones. This is simple and straightforward answer actually. You have to be the it can be all the entities having the the license from the relevant authorities. It can be free zones, it can be DED, it can be any DED of Emirates, the 7 Emirates. So they have to file the UBO, the return. They have to assess, they have to maintain the register of as well without any exception, except those what we discussed, then DAFC or ADGM or some free zone, some financial sector and the government-owned entities as well, except that. So what are that question has been answered. What are the obligations of the company actually itself, or maybe the legal entity if the company they are just like doing that. So they have to keep the records at their office. This is very important topic because mostly people they actually confuse about this one. What they have to, they only notify, they don't have any records. This is very important because if you don't have any records based on this, the requirement, then you will be getting the hefty fine of more than 50,000 AED as well, up to 100K. So that's why this is very important. What the records that I will tell you now. The records it can be having the UBO register that will be maintaining by the company. It will be mandatory requirement that will be UBO register. That will be a shareholder register as well. I mean, a register of nominee director. Nominee director we will discuss in the question answer sessions as well. Frequently asked question we will discuss on this one. Anyone who's nominated by other, the UBO that can be nominated as well. So if there is any change in the UBO, right? If I'm a partner in any company, I'm going to resign from the partnership. Now, those companies they have to notify within 15 days of the changes in the revision in their UBOs as well requirements. So the submission of the UBO declaration to the registrar as well. That is obligation as Mr. Guzar discussed. There are other the obligations as well for the registrar. But what we concern is our obligations. So these are the records you should maintain within your premises, within your company, as well. So these 2, 3 register that you have to maintain before that you will notify, and these registers should be maintained by the company as well.
Thank you. I will summarize this one. Right now, we have to submit UBO declaration to the registrar. Whenever we are saying registrar, it can be the licensing authority that has issued the license. The second, we have to keep a three registered. Number one, shareholder registered. Number two, beneficial ownership registered. Number three, nominee directors. And the third thing, if in future, if there will be any change within 15 days, we have to notify to the registrar. We can proceed to next.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. This was actually, the mostly there was a confusion actually, different clients as well that we are serving actually, and different, the question has been asked as well. What they have to keep, maintain the records as well. So these are the very important records. They have to register, they have to maintain in the companies because after 30th June there will be an inspection started by the relevant authorities, and there will be the fines or the penalties or warning letters or maybe the suspension of the license can be done as well. So there is another one that we can just like this is another way that we can just briefly describe to you that what you have to do. Maintain the register of beneficiary owners. This is one thing that's very important. I discussed in previous slide. What you have to do, maintain the register of shareholder or partners. These two very important registers that we have to maintain actually. The basic and the mandatory requirements. If you don't have these registers, then you will be in trouble actually. So that's why notice is that if there is any changes as I discussed, if your partner is resigned or maybe
I want to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
Basically, some of my clients have raised these questions
Yes.
that if a shareholder or partner is holding less than 25%, does his name should appear in the register of shareholder or partner? The answer is yes. Although it will not appear in UBO declaration, but in the register of shareholder and partners, his name should be there.
Yeah, I agree for that. Because as I mentioned, there are two registers. The one is
Yes,
UBO.
yes.
UBO can be anyone that based on the assessment of the legal entity. And then the other register that we have to maintain, even the partner or the shareholder, they are having the less than 25%, shareholder stakes. So that should
Yes.
both registers should be maintained, in parallel as well with the companies.
Yes.
And even the notice
And
please.
and other clarification in UBO declaration, only the individual will be there, and in register of shareholders, it can be a company, it can be a corporate entity as well.
Yes. So after if there is any changes, you have to be timely information with the registrar within 15 days that we discussed already. and the transparency and the accuracy of the updating as well. So what we have to record, if you can see down, there's a record. You have to record these, the things to register that you have to keep with you as well, and the confirmation that you have to, give the information to the registrar if any changes, provide them and update them as well with the transparency. Don't skip on this one. So these are the main, actually, the chunk of this one. So now, actually, this is also very important topic that, mostly, the question even though asked actually on these topics as well. What should be there in the register? There are two registers that we are discussing. So two slides we put it actually for the make it more easy for the people actually, that how they can, what should be there in the beneficiary owner, or maybe the register of the entity, register of the shareholders, or maybe the partners as well. What should be? You have to collect these information. That should be the legal entity. You can make it in Excel file. You can make it in the Word, whichever is is convenient to you. You have to collect all these information in the. If I am a partner in any company, so my legal name, actually full legal name will be there. The nationality of your date of birth, place of birth, the addresses will be there. Even the back, the home address will be there as well. Your identity as well for all the information. Then when this is also very important. When I started as a UBO, maybe I started maybe last 15 days, maybe I started in 2 years back. When I started, if there is any end date for myself as a UBO, I suspension or maybe the expiry or termination or maybe resign. So those dates also should be there as well. So this is very important information that should be there as well. Reason of being beneficiary, why I'm there, because what. So these are the information that the relevant authorities and maybe the Ministry of Economy are looking forward to have in the register as well.
So just small. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Small clarification. Basically, for like different registrar have different formats of UBO, so we have to provide them those details. But these details are for the register of shareholders.
Yeah.
There was another question. If a person, and this is impractical as well, if a person is holding more than 2 nationalities, 2 passports, then which passport should be entered into that one? The answer is that both nationalities should be there.
All the information, the completeness means the information should be completed in terms with respect to all the steps. We can say that.
Yes. We can move to next one.
No problem. So these, as you mentioned, these are the the information for the registers actually. That these are again actually I can tell you in other ways, just like what the shareholder and the partner register, what should have that actually. That was for the UBO. Then this is for the shareholder and the partner register as well. So that will be mostly it will be the same as well. The full name, nationality, date of birth and place of birth as well. What the address is, residential addresses. It can be even UAE or maybe outside of your the UAE as well. So all the identification, it can be ID, it can be passport number as well. So when we became UBO, when we became the partner as well, when so these are the basic information and the mandatory information that should be with you. It's a very simple. You can even create your own register as well based on your assessment. If you can assess, that's wonderful. You can just have a register maintained in your company as well. But one thing very important, that if there is any changes, you have to update to the registrar within 15 days from such changes. Otherwise, there will be penalty for this, for the delays of these, the notification to the registrar as well. Yeah.
Thank you. There was one question that if some document is expired, what we should do? Basically, we have to provide the updated documents. If some document is outdated or expired, even in that case, we have to provide, and as early as possible, we can provide the updated one. We have to provide that as well. Yeah. But based on the outdated one or the expired one, we have to file the UBO declarations. Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, there are some frequently asked questions, and then we can proceed and we can take our question answers as well. The shareholders and our directors of the company are the UBOs. Why do we have to make a separate filing? We agree that most of the shareholders are the UBOs, but in certain cases this might not be the case. So that is why we have to file a separate UBO. We are expecting that in future when you will be renewing your trade license, they will collect all those informations, and there will be no separate UBO declaration required for that one, except in the cases where changes are required. The second is if the UBO declaration requires for certain type of companies only, or it's for all. It's, as we said, it's for all except for the exempted entities. Yes, we can move ahead. Javed, we can
Yeah,
move ahead.
please, Mr. Gulad, you can proceed actually. Maybe some technical issue with my slides. You can proceed, please, with the frequent questions.
So basically, then I cannot see the slides.
Okay, okay, no problem. Let me check.
So slides are, please bear with us. Slides are hanged. So
Okay, okay, no problem. So you already discussed that, as you mentioned, that these are frequently asked questions that we, the collected from the different, the whatever the question has been asked from different sources and different, the clients as well. And these are very relevant to the, for all of us actually. So why, what is the meaning of the nominee director? As I discussed earlier, actually, the nominee is can be nomination by anyone. If I'm a UBU, I can nominate anyone as a nominee director. So it can be, the guy who is obliged to act in accordance with the direction and instruction of another person. So that will be from our side as well. So this is also very important. If you have the nominee director, another thing, you have to maintain the nominee director register as well in your company, within your company. That's very important. So the third one, we can say the register will be there if you have the nominee director as well. So the share in the company are held by the employee as a nominee who may not able to and not also be the director of the company. Is that individual considered the UBU? This is also important question that has been asked actually. So mostly, if I am an employee of any company, and you can just have you can nominate me as a director of the company and as a UBU or so. What should be there? I will not be the UBU. Why? Because I'm not holding 25%. I don't have any controls on the company as well. So wherever the relationship exists, the nominated will be the UBU. I don't have any relationship with the company as well. I am the employee and nominated by another guy as well. So the director will only be the UBO where no one control as discussed Mr. Godard, he just like briefly tell about the who can be the if anyone, there is no person in any company that can be a 25% or more than that. So those guys, senior management, it can be a director, it can be CEO, it can be a the MP, whatever those guys will be the UPU definitely actually without because we cannot even have the the identify we cannot identify the UPU as well. So this is an important question as well. Yeah.
Thank you. We have received another questions that is also very common.
Yeah.
What about the local guy mentioned as a shareholder in the LLC? Is this a local guy to be treated as a UBO?
Yes, please.
As
You
a
can
shareholder,
I will just tell you.
as a shareholder, his name should be there. But if in memorandum it's mentioned that the company is wholly owned by expats or someone else, the local will not be treated as a UBO. The other thing, if you have a side agreement, then it will also be treated that it is not a UBO. If you don't have these two things, then the local will be considered as a UBO.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I can add actually in this one, in this question.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much for the clarification. Actually, there is one thing that I have checked actually with different relevant authorities, even in the DAD and as well. So, as per their, their information, what they said that if the local they have the something, mostly in LLC they have 51% actually. So even the courts or maybe the DD, they consider them as a partner, legal partner. Even they have the side agreement, if they have a side agreement as well. But those the relevant authorities or maybe they treated them as a partner actually, legal partner we can say that. So what they said actually on the side, the safe side, you have to put them in the UBU as well. Maybe, and of course, as you mentioned, that those guys will be there in the register, the shareholder and the partners as well. But on the safe side, you can put in the UBO register as well. That was, the information we received from the relevant authorities. So in both, the both cases, it can be done actually. So because side agreement, we know that side agreement is there. That he's not getting the benefits from the company as well. But as per their information, they said on the safe side we have to do that.
Okay, thank you, Athar, for the clarification. There is another question. It says just one.
So the
Should
question
we
I
give the
can,
information if
yeah.
it is even less than 25% or only we can say that rest are not applicable? Basically, there should be at least one natural person that should be a UBO. If you have one person that is holding more than 25% and the remaining are less than 25%, remaining will be not applicable, only there will be one UBO. But if all are less than 25%, then you have to see who is controlling the company, who is controlling the entity. That will be UBO. The third criteria, if you are not able to identify the person who is controlling, then the senior most management positions in the entity will be considered the UBO.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this is very straightforward as we discussed earlier as well. Where 25% less than 25%, senior most person will be the where you
Yes.
cannot identify the UBO, the senior most person will be the UBO. This is
Yes.
as per the law. Yeah.
We will answer one more questions and then we can proceed with our normal presentation. And by end of session, we appreciate if you raise these questions by end of the sessions so that we can have a full session. He's saying from where? Yes, yes. I think we can proceed with the presentation,
we will
and
be
by
having
end
the
we
questions.
can answer.
We will take all the questions. I mean, there's no. We will take all the questions at the end of the presentation, inshallah. So
yes, please.
What is the due date of submission of UBT? Everyone see, as you know, this actually resolution 58 2020 it came actually in 2000. It's 2020 in August 2020. And as per the law, it says that as per the resolution, it says that you have to submit the UBO declaration within the 16 days of the publication of the law. But due to some, the limitation, due to some, from the relevant authorities, they extended the deadlines. So now 30th June is basically the final deadline for all the relevant authorities. If some already submitted, but the mostly it comes from the if you can visit the Ministry of the Economy, there will be actually the timeline is ongoing. Actually, the deadline is 30th June for the submission of the deadline submission of the UBO declaration as well on the relevant portals for all the relevant authorities as well. So we consider 30th June. It is there on the Ministry of the Economy website as well. If you can kindly visit on the Ministry of Economy, you will see the 30th June 2021 is the deadline for all the relevant authorities to submit the UBOs as well. Is there any penalty? Of course, there is no doubt about it. The penalty will be there for after 30th June. The Ministry of Economy teams, they will be going for the inspection of these, the companies wherever they will select, and there will be, of course they will impose. The penalty start from, there is one slide for the penalty as well. The penalty start from 50,000 AED to 100,000 actually per AED. So even though it can be a warning, follow with a warning, and it can be a suspension of the license as well. So of course there will be a late submission, and even though if you don't submit, there will be a more penalties as well. So this was the basic requirement that we discussed frequently as question we have been discussed. I hope a lot of things has been clarified, and the most of the questions has been answered as well. So what are the compliance requirements? This is also important that we will discuss with Gulzar as well. So what we should do, this is already we discussed that what we have to do. First, what you have to do, you have to identify the reporting entity, the UBOs. Who are the UBOs in your company? Suppose you have the ABC company. First, you have to take the license. First, you have to take the the memorandum, the article of association, to see who can be based on the this presentation, or based on this information, based on the law. Who are the guys who can be UBOs based on the criteria what Gulzar mentioned? Actually, there are some 3 criteria. If there is no person more than 25%, then senior management, of course, based on those criteria, then you have to collect those details as well. Why? Because you will create a register of those based on those details as well. Then you create 2 registers that can be a UBO. One is UBO register. Because why we are saying they're partners and the UBO? Because the UBO and partner, it can be different persons, right? It can be a natural person. Natural person can be a UBO, but the legal person cannot be a UBO as well. So that's why they are the requirement for 2 registers as well. So One register for the UBO and the other register will be for the register for the partners and the shareholder as well. You have to report the same actually to the authority. If you have the licenses from different authorities, just like in Free Zone, just like in the mainland as well, in Abu Dhabi or maybe Emirates as well, any Emirates, you have to go on the portal and submit your requirements as well for the UBO. And you have to keep the records for the UBOs up to 5 years. If suppose in any company I'm leaving today, after my departure, you have to keep those my records for up to 5 years as well. This is as per the law as well. This is federal law number. I think two. There is a law number, and then as per those, the laws, you have to keep the records. All the companies they must keep the records for any. It's not only UBU. It can be for any the legal requirements that you have to keep the records up to 5 years. So then, of course, what you register, what you maintain, that is registered. You have to keep those registered and maintain it. It should be up to date as well. Any changes should be done as well. Any changes should be notified to the registrar on timely basis as well. So these are the compliance requirement for you actually. And currently, Mr. Gulzar, he is doing, the lot of clients about the UBOs as well, and he will just lead to this slide. He will tell you about the.
Yes, thank you, Atar. Most of our clients, most of our companies are registered in DED. So there are basically three ways to do the UBO declarations. The one is you have to go to this site and register your company. But if you will go to this one, they will ask for a UAE pass. If you don't have UAE pass, you can download the UAE pass and create username and password, and all of the entities that you own will appearing there, and the relevant entity you want to submit the UBO, you can submit that one. You can create a username and password, but again you have to use the UAE pass. Then you have to visit DED and you can submit that one, but there is a fee that is 115 dirhams. You have to give them. Along with that, you need one declaration form that you can download from the Ministry of Economy, but that declaration form should be signed and stamped. But we have a practical experience for that one. They are asking bring that letter on a company letterhead with sign and stamp. Who are the real beneficial owners? Means UBOs. If you are submitting and by their center. The third one is they will send you one activation like a link on the SMS. It should be a registered mobile, or you can call them and they will send you on the mobile that you will register with them. They are very cooperative, but for that one you will need a license number of the entity. You will tell them that this is the trade license number of the entity, and they might ask, in case of suspicious call, they might ask some extra questions just to validate that you are a genuine person. But if it's not mandatory that they will ask additional questions as well. In certain cases, they might ask. In most of the cases, just you will tell them the license name and you will tell them the number, and they will send you a link. You can open that link and you will see the UBO details are there. If you want to amend those details, you can do that one.
Okay,
I will summarize.
Yes.
Because this is the most important area. You can do filing by three-way. You can go to their site, create a username and password by UAE Pass, and submit the details. The second, you can visit their any office, any Tasjeel office, any DED office, and you can submit the documents. The third one, this you can call them, or you can get the SMS on your registered mobile, or you can call and get that basically the link for your company. Another important point, you cannot go and register by online by UAE Pass if the shareholding is a corporate entity. Means the shareholding of one company is owned by the other entity. It can be one entity or more than one entity. Even in that case, you cannot get the message for that one. you have to visit to DED, and they will accept. Suppose in one company, company A, there are three shareholders, three entities, entity B, entity C, and entity D. Then from all the three entities, you will need a letter who is real beneficial owner in the entity A, and that should be signed and stamped by the authorized persons of entity B, C, and D. I hope it clears for you.
Yeah.
If you need some specific format, we have, and we will be happy to provide that format as well.
There's one thing I just want to add.
Yes,
Thank you
please.
so much. It was detailed. How most of the companies we understand that from the DEDs, the relevant authorities, the DED. But that there are a lot of actually the clients I have served actually. Those clients they already received the SMS from the DED as well. They only
Okay.
click on the the link and then they just lead to the submission of those actually for the only for the DED as well. So
Yes,
they
yes.
have this, but mostly some people they haven't received actually waste. Most of the companies that those are sole establishment they receive the SMS as well. But if the guys they have the CBL or they may be the LLCs as well, they are facing the challenge actually in this one. So that's why we already create accounts for those clients as well, and then we are putting the those guys on the portal itself, and we are submitting the UBOs based on those. So that's
Yes,
why. Yeah, please.
yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Go.
Yes, please.
Uh,
We can move forward.
yes, please.
Okay. Then there is DDA. All companies required to declare their beneficial ownership with DDA by online portal. Same way DMC, and they have a username and password that is specific to only shareholder. They will provide for that one, and you can do the UBO declaration there. Same way DMCC, you have a username and password. Any particulars you want to change, you need that one. Same way you will log in by that details, and you can file in DMCC as well. In Rockies, the most easiest way is to send them email. There is one format that they have provided. Just complete that one. That will have most of the particulars as we already discussed: name, address, passport, and all those things. Just sign, stamp, attach that one, and it will be done. Then Ajman free zones, all the companies are required to declare their beneficial ownership through filing a UBO declarations with the free zone through online portal. But deadline was 15 June. We had a call with them and seeing it's closed, but it's as per their statement, they are saying we are expecting that it will reopen before 30th June, so that if someone missed that one, it should be filed on timely manner. And this is with the SAF zone authority as well. They have an online portal, but that is closed after 15 June. And we had a call with them, and they are saying it will reopen. We are not guaranteeing anything. We are stating their wordings. It will reopen before 30th June, so that you can file that one. But as of now, before this presentation, they have not opened that one. We can move to
Okay.
the next one.
Yeah. Only one thing I just want to add here. Some clients actually have done on these, the different free zones actually. They already have structured, the way how they can do that. The most of the client they're receiving the emails from the relevant authorities that you have to notify them. But the challenge of the clients they're facing the challenges is in terms of identification of the UBOs. It can be maintaining of the register. So are we just what we are doing? We are just like giving them assistance in terms of the identification of the UBOs and all these the maintaining of the registers for different it can be partners, it can be UBO as well. So those already there, it can be through online portal as well as you mentioned that correctly. And Ajman freezing that was I also checked with the guys. This was 15th June, and but now it's the 30th June most probably because it's coming on the Ministry of Economy. So it can be
Yes.
extended on 30th June.
Yes. And there are other zones. We have not mentioned all the zones,
Yeah.
like Masdar zones, although there are not too much companies. But in that case, the best way is to call their office and state the. But before call, you should have your trail lessons. So if they will ask certain information, you should be able to tell them the exact informations.
Okay, that
We
was
will take
actually
a question answer
yes.
sessions, but as Athar said, we have certain our professional services that we can offer you or your prestigious companies, and Athar will explain that one, and then we can have a question answer sessions. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Pooja. Okay, what actually, the basic objective of this webinar, it was simple actually that, we want to give you the information about this resolution that, we are even doing for our own clients as well, but we want to give the information to all of the relevant, the parties as well, maybe the professionals, so that how we can just like, you can, even though you can do it yourself, but we can even assist in terms of the how you can assess your the legal entities identification of the user as well. We can arrange the filing with the authorities, or maybe even with the we can assist as well only. Maybe we can prepare the register for yourself, or maybe the entities, for all the entities, or maybe the groups as well, for the UBOs, the partners, shareholders, and nominee directors as well, as per the the law and regulation required. So we can just like though give them the services about the secretarial services, as we can maintain all the relevant laws and based on the from the GSS platform, because we have a specific company for the compliance 360. What we can do, we can just like have the secretarial services for different companies, and we can perform those activities and the compliance requirement for all the companies. Based on that, that we have specific and special expertise on those compliance requirements as well. So these are the basic, the information, and then we have been discussed based on the request of some, the clients and maybe the professionals as well. I hope that was very interesting and insightful session as well. Now we will take the question answer. If if you want to add something here as well. This was my, why we actually, this arrange this webinar. That was the purpose of this one, only small purpose. It's not,
I will say just one sentence. We are here to serve you.
yes.
Any question, send us email, send us WhatsApp, give us call, and we will be happy to assist you. There are some questions like relating to 51% ownership of a local, that is debatable, and no one can correctly answer that one. So on a safer side, we will suggest you should declare him a UBO, and this is advisable by the personals as well. The second question is, I understand. Earlier this month, we received SMS from DD for UBO, and we replied that SMS and got confirmation from DD about submission. Still, we need to submit any declaration or any other things else. This is question from Yasser. Yasser, your UBO declaration filing requirement is done. Keep that SMS with you that you have fulfilled your requirement, but you have to keep register of shareholders and register of UBOs and nominee director registered if applicable.
Yeah, agree. This is the what basic requirement, a mandatory requirement for all.
Yes, but UBO filing declarations, uh, you have complied that one.
Yeah, only
Then,
one thing I want to add. If
yes,
the authorities after 30th June, they will be inspecting the companies. They will not only looking for the messages. They will be looking for the records, what the register you have maintained actually. So that's why you should be ready for that. You should keep ready for those register as well. Yeah, please.
Okay, Hafiz has one question. Is there can be more than one UBO in any location or company? For one company, it will be a one UBO, but if it has a branches, for each branch, it has to file a separate UBO for that one. I hope it clarifies your concerns. Then we have a question from Mustafa. Do we need to disclose all shareholders as UBO who owns 25% or more shares if company has three shareholders who owns more than 25%? Will all three be UBOs? Yes, all three will be UBOs because they are holding more than 25% individually.
Yeah, yeah. So the question of these actually asked that was also relevant to this question. If any company, if they are having, they are meeting the criteria of them having the UBOs, it can be, the more UBOs as well. It's not, mandatory that if the guys they having the UBOs and they have more than maybe 25%, and maybe the voting rights are maybe the UBOs, so it can be possible that the UBOs can be more than one actually. So this was a question actually.
And in
Yeah.
not in chat, we want to hear from you. There are all are valuable for us. So just raise your hand, open your mic, and raise the questions. We will be
Yes, yes.
more happy to hear your voice and answer your question. Yes, please. There is another question by Talud. Excuse me if I pronounced it wrongly. Register of UBO and register of shareholder needs to be authorized by competent authorities, or it will be only internal documents matched with the declared record. It is internal record. It should match with your with
Yes.
the passport and all those things. It should not be authorized by the competent authority, but they can inspect at any time and they can give the suggestions on that one.
Yes, yes, that's agree. This is a, that's why I always stress on this part that you should be having the register properly assessed, the legal entity, and then you may keep the register as well. There is an internal document, and it should be kept for 5 years as well.
But Talut, for that services, you can contact for us. Yes. What if the shareholders are having side agreement with each other and have some voting rights and profit sharing arrangements? Yes, it's not the profit sharing arrangements, it's voting rights or shareholding. That is basically important. So
This,
if through
yeah,
that side agreement, if someone is entitled for 25% or more than 25%, he will be considered a UBU.
yes, yes. Actually, for this one, the profit sharing is something. The arrangement is between the individual. We can say arrangements. We can say even though it's from the courts as well, but that legal entity, we have to assess the legal entity, what the shareholding as the legal entity. In that.
There are some appreciation messages as well, like from Hafiz. Thank you, Hafiz. We appreciate that one.
Thank you very much. So I think
There is one comment from the yoga that
yeah,
is very senior seasoned professionals, and we are proud that he has attended our session. Thank you, yoga. We appreciate that. And he said soul establishment is 100% owned by local, but in fact controlled by expats. Basically, yoga for like it's in the certain cases, and it's vice versa as well. Like in we have a chartered accountant firm that is 100% owned by a local, but in fact we are the UBO. I am the UBO. So in that case, I have to declare as a UBO as well. So in that case, we advise to put both local name and expat's name as a UBO. It's advisable.
yeah.
There is no written guideline available on that one, but it's advisable. That is the best practice.
It's just like to the cover your risk as well in terms of
There is another question from Mr. Yasir. Can we advise about any specific format for UBO and shareholder register? Of course, for shareholder register, we have a format for that one. But for UBO declaration, every registrar has a specific format, and you have to provide the information for that one. For shareholder registered and nominal registered, we have a format. And if you need that one, just drop your email ID and we will send you that as well. Then there is another question. But that may not be legally documented in the registrar record. Adnan, you have raised one question, but I'm not able to see the context of that one.
that is
If
relevant
you
to the
can,
previous question. Yeah, that is relevant to the previous question that
okay.
has already been answered. And I think most of the questions we have taken. And if anything is required, we would be more than happy to serve you in terms. You can just send us the email as well. We already share the email and the contact details. Anything is required, we will be happy to assist you in that.
Yeah. Then there is other. Let's
Yeah.
extend the sessions for 10-15 minutes so that we can answer all of the questions. Then there is question from Talud. Then can we download filed application or certificate from competent authorities? In certain cases, certain authorities, yes, but not in all. But you will receive a message or if online a text that it is filed. It's advisable before submitting you should keep a copy of that one and the final message that it is submitted to the authority. But there is no specific way like in FTA we can download the VAT registration certificate or the filed ones.
I
We
think
hope
Mr.
that
Arfat,
they will do in the same manner that we can download the applications, but right now it's not available for all the registrar. If there is some specific case, I'm not aware about that one. Apologize for that.
I think Mr. Arfat has a questions. I think if you can just, Mr. Arfat, if you can just ask any question.
Just 1 minute. Yes, Arafat, we can have question from you, and then there are some other questions. Yes.
No, I don't have any question, but I just wanted to clarify on Mr. Adnan Malik's question. I think his question was stressing on the legality of the arrangement. So I just want to clarify that I mean these laws, which is UBO and the ESR, both of these laws actually they work on the substance over form. So Mr. Adnan is right. From the legal perspective, yes, your side agreement is not a part of with the registration with the registrar, but actually in these laws you have to look into from the perspective of the substance, not from the legal perspective. Maybe you can just shed more light on that, Gulzar.
Arafat, thank you for your wonderful insights, and I'm glad that Arafat is our managing partner in Compliance 360 that deals with AML and such compliance things. Arafat, wonderful. Thank you very much. Then we have a question from Yoga. Do we have to declare power of attorney? No, it's not mandatory that we need to declare a power of attorney, but in certain cases, DD asks for the power of attorney as well. That do you have authority to do that? In that case, we have to show them. Otherwise, it's not mandatory to declare power of attorney. Sorry. Then one by one. Yeah, we have basically received some messages, and some people are suggesting that we should have ESR webinar as well. So we will try to have a ESR webinar as soon as possible, inshallah. Then there is another question: can 100% subsidiary company UBO can be different from holding company UBO? It can be yes, or it cannot be. If they are registered in the same registrar, means same licensing authority, then it will be the same. Or if they have a different shareholders, in one it's individual, the other it's corporate, then it might be different as well. But if they are registered in the different registrar, means licensing authorities, then the declarations might be different for that one as well. So it can be same or it can be different as well. Thank you, Yasser, for your wonderful comments. Then, if you have any other question, just raise hand, and we want to hear your voice as well. Raise questions, otherwise we will raise questions and we will take exam of you.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time that you guys have given for spare for this webinar. And thank you very much, Mr. Gulzar, as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Arfat as well. And I really appreciate all of you. And I hope that after this session, you will be able to, do the needful for the companies as well and for your companies. If you need any assistance, and we would be glad and we would be very happy to assist you in any form, anything is required from our side. So thank you very much. Have a good day. If,
just one thing, just one more thing. I'm typing the email ID where you can raise the. Where you can raise your.
This has already been shared with from Mr. Javed. He already shared with the guys actually with
Okay,
all the
excellent.
participants.
And you can raise
And
your question.
if anything
Excellent.
is
Thank you.
there, we will be happy to assist you. Thank you so much.